So here we have Michael Ansarra, one of the greatest contributors of CCSU. Welcome to Himmy Entertainment.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
So how are you doing today?
Oh, there's this old gospel song that says you had some good times, had some weary days, hills to climb, but when you think it all over, your good days outweigh your bad days. I don't have nothing to complain about.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're having a good day. Well, 30 years of not only supporting, students, but also being a mentor and a role model to so many. How was that journey and your experience?
First off, what I'd say is I was given the opportunity to do many of the things that I did because somebody else paid the price to allow me to do that.
Okay.
And I'll put it in context. When I was a little kid, right, in Brooklyn, New York, we lived in Crown Heights, and my grandmother would tell me to go take some meals or some food over to Miss Shirley. And I'd go over to Miss Shirley's office and see her, and this black woman was articulate, and hair was always done, and wire-rimmed glasses, and she had a little speech impediment, but she was superlative with her speech, and very articulate, eloquent, elegant. And Miss Shirley is Shirley Chisholm, and Shirley Chisholm was the first African-American woman to run for president of the United States. My grandmom came to America from Panama, and she was a maid and a cleaning lady, and saved her money to buy a house to bring my mother and my aunt to America. And she still served as a cleaning lady at Rockefeller Center years past, saved the money, bought another house. When my grandmother retired from Rockefeller Center, the apartment building she had 20 apartments in it. She always told me that I was given a gift. Just in terms of being knowledgeable, being concerned about other people. And, as a professional, some of the things came naturally. It just did, out of care and concern and gratitude, really, for the people that preceded me.
So how you think you took those lessons of you growing up and you applied them into your profession?
Well, first I'll talk about college. Well, my road as a professional, it's a winding, crazy crossing road. As a kid, I wasn't always the most disciplined kid. And I'll never forget when my mom took me downtown Manhattan, right across the Brooklyn Bridge, and we went into this building and walked up the stairs and the big marble pillars. And I'm a little kid, I'm just in 8th grade, and I kind of know what's going on, but I don't know what's going on. We're sitting out in the hall, and the woman says, "You can go into his chambers now." Chambers. And we walked in the room, and this man was sitting behind the desk, and he had a robe on. And he said, "You have two options. You can go to Valley Forge Military Academy, or you can go to Spofford." Well, if you're not from New York, Spofford is the equivalent of Cheshire. Let's go to Valley Forge. I grew 6 inches in a year. I always played baseball. I was a better baseball player than I would have been a basketball player. Fast forward, I come home. I went from 5'6" to 6'3". Summertime, I'm about 6'4". I played in the summer tournament, the Brooklyn USA tournament, and I met this guy named Joe Pugelli, and they offered me a scholarship to go to a school called McBurney High School, McBurney Prep. Henry Winkler, Dan Rather, folks like that went there. 63rd Street and Broadway. I'm from Brooklyn, right an hour to get on the train. I graduate, I'm being recruited, I'm captain of the team. At this point, I'm the second tallest person on the team because we could put a starting 5 on the floor, 6'11", 6'7", 6'8", 6'6", 6'5" was the shortest guy. Captain, lost my mind in terms of being recruited. I was recruited by Tom Davis at Boston College when he was there, and Jim Calhoun was at UConn. Fast forward, everybody started recruiting me. I went to Cornell. I get to Cornell. I'm loving life. I'm academically competitive, but I still, I like to do what I do. As a young kid and trying to find my way. I'll let you fill in the blanks. And My first semester, my grade point average was the equivalent of a hot summer's day in Texas. You know, the end of my first year in school, I only earned 15 credits. I ended up graduating on time after taking 18, 20, 22 credits my last 3 semesters. One of the things in terms of education that pushed me was to try to be the kind of administrator or professional that wasn't there when I needed them. They wasn't there where, yes, I was in college, but I was on my own after a while from when I was 17. I'm failing out of school. I can't go back home. There's nobody there in Brooklyn. Everybody moved. I go into the store, big Parker coat on. I never went out the store hungry, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But there were some times where you were at that crossroad where you could do something a certain way, or you could have a long-term deferred compensation approach, and I took the long-term approach. I worked in an Upward Bound program during the summer times where they have college kids live on, inner city kids come to a college campus and get academic enhancement. I worked in sports camps. During the school year, I'd work for campus police, driving the golf cart, taking the co-eds from the library to the dorms. Somebody had to do it. It was a tough job. That's the kind of job I want that job. I worked in the game room counting ping pong balls and paddles. One of my first job out of Cornell, I got hired as a campus police officer. It wasn't until years later, I still had that little tinge with me, but it wasn't until years later that I liked that movie Training Days, because it hit a chord, because I had foresight back then that, you know, sometimes you say that could have been me. That's the other side, the real bad side. So I quit. And then I took a job at Eastern Connecticut State University to work in housing. And I was the area coordinator, 635 student apartment complex. I left there. I went to run the student center at Trinity College. And I did that for about 1.5 years. And then I went to Central to work in admissions recruiting. I forgot to mention when I was at Cornell, I also would assist the admissions office doing recruiting. So it all tied into things that I had done, that I did. Because my major was developmental psychology, and at that point I didn't want a master's degree. I just wanted to work and make some money and pay student loans. So just to try to be the kind of person that wasn't there, and the road that took me was based on some of the experiences that I got over time.
How was it transitioning from one school to another one, and like based on their environment and how the demographics of each college or each university was? And
oh, day and night. Eastern, first, that's a very interesting place, because they talk about romantic, Willimantic. As a 25-year-old Afro-Latin male, there's nothing romantic about Willimantic. I'll tell you that right. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Oh boy, it was different. It was different. It was like Cornell, you know, you get the preppy kinds, you get all kinds of folks. Eastern kids were just regular kids, you know, local kids. I never knew the quiet corner of Connecticut, didn't know anything about that, and Putnam, Connecticut, and like when the oh, this is good one, when the kids were coming on a Thursday night, and Thursday night was party night, you know, and they come in, and I go into the lobby because I'm running the high-rise building, and I have this tinge, it smells. It's like, what's that smell? I said, what are you guys doing? And they have dirt on their shoes and stuff. I'm like, what's going on? I said, oh, they went tipping cows. What's tipping cows? I'm a city guy. I know nothing about that stuff. I figured out what it was after a while. They told me. It was a learning experience. I did that for about 3.5 years, and then it was time to go. It was time to go. So I applied for the job at Trinity to work to run their student center. That was like a Cornell. When you have money, you can do anything. You know, running the dorm is accustomed to protocol and procedures and rules and regulations. And Trinity, you know, when they'd have the Mather Campus Center and the ballroom, and one of the fraternities or sororities would rent out the ballroom to have a party. And they said, well, you have to make sure that you put down the tarp on the floor. Why am I putting a tarp on the floor of the building? They said, put the tarp on the floor because you'll understand. And then they come in with the big, the beer. You know, with the spigots or what have you, And Monday morning, place smelled just like a brewery. Smart kids, you know, but different. Elitist a little bit. But I went to corner. I could hang with anybody. No preconceived notions. I accept you for who you are and what you got the potential to be. I was still MG at that point. Everybody knew me as MG. Do my thing. And then I went to Central. And Central, that's when I would say my professional career and everything changed a little bit, because that was a position to enhance the enrollment of minority students. And it's funny, when we had the interview, they said, "What will you do?" And I asked them where the territory is. And they said, Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, Waterbury. And I go, I can recruit white students now. I can get along with everybody. Mm-hmm. So no, we want to recruit Black and Latino students. I go, well, I can't. Black and Latino students, they have 95 to 98% of students in those school districts are Black and Latino. How are they minority? That's the mindset. And Grandma raised me that I come from a pedigree of kings and queens, great scientists, orators, and engineers. And I didn't think I was going to get the job, because my answers are cutting edge a little bit. And they accepted me. I was hired by a guy named Johnny Floyd. And we were able to increase the enrollment from 4% to 18%, create scholarship programs. I had this special weekend. Every year we would have recruiting weekend. Just like the athletes were being recruited, that's how I would recruit the students of color. So I would bring up some of the people that we brought to campus. KRS-One, Father MC, Today, Danny Glover, Samuel Jackson, Ruby D. Ozzie Davis. It was the thing, and all the students would say, if it's always like this, that's why I want to come. I go, it's not always like this. But it allowed the place to change. Plus, on the flip side, from an administrative side, I would battle the administration. See, at Cornell, they took over, the students of color, Black students, took over the student union in the 60s. Took it over. Yeah, they went in with guns. They had chains on the doors. They were in lockdown for about a week or so. Because somebody had burned a cross on the Houry house. A Houry house was a woman's house, a girl's residence. And when I found out that at Central, they did the same. That they actually had taken over the president's office in the admin building one time. So I would go and just battle in terms of, I was one of 5 Black Afro-Americans administrators on the whole campus when I got there in '88. And I emphatically would tell them, how can I recruit students to come to campus when there's nobody on campus in a leadership role or a teaching role that looks like them? You know, the most people that looked like them were clerical folks who were very knowledgeable and had all the information. And then cleaning people, who you give all the respect due to cleaning folks, because they do what the average man and woman won't do, and allow you to keep your health and safety in check. But that's not putting the knowledge in a kid's head to allow him to be successful and get a college degree. And the African Studies class was taught by a white Southerner and chaired by a white Southerner. It just didn't make any sense to me. And we'd battle and I'd politic and do different programming to bring light onto campus, like the Lions 21st Century Breakfast, where we would bring high school counselors and other community college personnel to Central. And I'd do a presentation about the increase of enrollment and the commitment that we had to students. In the first year I did it, it was in Memorial Hall. There was maybe 50 people. And at the end, when I was doing it, it was standing room only. You know, so it's a flashback. There's a lot of stuff done there.
The recruitment of minorities, was that?
Say students of color. Because I wasn't recruiting just white students. Say students of color.
Of students of color. Was it an actual mission or goal that the university had or has, or it was just a box that they needed to check?
No, that's a good question. Back at that time, the leadership in the state of Connecticut, all the way from the governor's office and the Department of Higher Education, the Equal Opportunity Program in higher ed was run by a woman named Dolores Graham. And she reminded me of my grandma and Donnie Perkins, who reminded me of Carson Carr, who set me up and started me off in higher education, just working at the Upward Bound programs. And they had this grant program that they were offering to universities called Minority Enrollment Incentive Program, MEIP. And they gave you money to do recruiting, like do recruiting for speakers, whatever programming you needed to assist in the recruiting is to enhance the enrollment on campus. And it part of it was people had some foresight then, outside the box a little bit in terms of looking further ahead. We call the Alliance 21st Century Breakfast. Coming to the 21st century, the demographics of people are going to change. What you deemed as a minority is now a majority, has a say in just about anything that you want to do, holds major positions in any corporations, any military, any business, any hospital, anything you want. We still struggle because people don't want to let go. But one of the things that I would explain when I do the presentations to people and say something that you do today is going to impact somebody tomorrow. And it's going to impact my yet to be born grandson. He's 4 now. I didn't have any grandchildren then. The African phrase, word, Ubuntu, and UBUNTU. And what that means is I am because we are. I am because we are. So think of this. If you don't see how people are so interconnected, think of how we drink the same dirty water. We breathe the same dirty air. And when it comes to life, most basic bodily functions, I don't know, but I like the smell of potpourri. Some people like Lysol. It's the same. And you wouldn't be stupid enough to say, what political party are you? What's your race? What's your color? What's your preference of food or whatever if you need a blood transfusion and that was going to keep you from dying? It doesn't matter. It's how you get along and how do you uplift those that have been held down for so long. It's not a thing like the Holocaust where you can say that the Holocaust never happened. Well, that's a rumor. That's one of those conspiracy theories folks tripping. But you can't deny the black diaspora, which dropped people, that black and brown people, from one continent all over the world. So
once you started recruiting, more students, do you think that, or did the school faculty as a whole had to go through some kind of like cultural competency training to be able to deal with the difference of, like we said, we mentioned Hartford, Bridgeport.
There were some tough times. No, you're gonna find folks that still, how can I put this? There was a person, I'll keep the name to myself, but it was a heavyset man. And he had a redneck, but it wasn't because his collar was tight. And he made he wasn't evasive in terms of expressing how he felt. Sometimes they were able to mask it pretty good, but you would always get to tend to the students of how they felt in the classes and felt alienated until, when I said that I was one of 5 on campus, there weren't many teachers. African American history was taught by a white person. The campus culture and dynamics had to change to accommodate those students that were being brought to campus. But that not only benefited those students, that also benefited those white students that lived in Stanford, that lived in Wallingford, that were from Meriden, New Haven, Waterbury, Danbury, wherever it was, where at that time, I remember them telling me when I went recruiting down in Ledger, Connecticut, and one of my coworkers, I had issues with him because he used to like listening to Howard Stern and tell Howard Stern jokes. So you already know what his mindset was. And he came and he said, "So you made it back today?" I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" Well, Ledger was one of those areas that was Klan country. And I'm still gonna stand up in front of them folks. I'm gonna say what I have to say. I'm gonna do what I have to do for the better good of all, so to say. But my heart and priority was always with those students on campus. And like I said, I extended myself doing some things that I wish somebody would have done when I was in school to make life easier. And the best thing, my grandmother used to talk to me about, you're in higher education now, son, and You know, she come with these stories and little analogies, and one of them was about planting seeds for the trees you'll never sit under. I've been blessed so far with a little bit of longevity, just a little bit, that I could see some of those students that I recruited initially from 80 to 95 before I went into athletics, that are doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers, entrepreneurs, millionaires, who have their kids now attending Central, or they themselves now work at Central. And the biggest, most humbling thing is when they name their son or daughters after me. Or somebody calls me a legend, I'm like, well, you forget there's people that you don't know who did legendary type things to allow me and you to do the things that we're doing now.
Do you feel honored by having alumni coming to you or running into them right now and them looking at you like so highly and giving you accolades?
It's humbling. You know, it really is. And the thing that I get out, the biggest kick and excitement that I get out of it is that I remember many of those students, because I know what I did. I remember when their hair was nappy and their nose was snotty, and they're just stupid kids. And I would tell them, I said, look, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen if you don't change your behavior, if you don't do X, Y, and Z. And why you know so much? I said, because I was you. Yeah, I was missing class. Yeah, I was partying, I was doing whatever. But then you got to think of the investment that you're making and try to strike it home. You wouldn't buy a car and never drive it. You wouldn't buy a house and not live in it and not rent it out. So how can you pay college tuition and don't go to class? See, if something you do today is going to impact you tomorrow, that vocabulary word you got or that concept that you grasp, that you could care less about. It's not about the content of that information, but it's about your understanding what your strengths and weaknesses were in grasping and comprehending the information. And somewhere along the way, there's an analogy to anything that you do. And some things are transferable, so you'll find your way. So, you know, I've been able to sit under the shade of some of those trees that I planted. My thing now, if you really were to ask me what I want, is to be able to have those students now come back and teach the old man some new tricks, or to take some of the intellect of my concept and ideas that I have and bring it to present time and flip it over the top. Let me tell you what one of those are right now. If I had the ability to put people in the room, I want an engineer, I want an architect, I want a finance person, I want somebody in construction, I want a social worker, I want an educator, I want a community activist, all in the room working with me. Said, what were you gonna do? I said, well, go into any major city or small city around here and look at that big daggone apartment building that has 20 or 30 apartments in there. One of them in Hartford on the corner of, Washington Street. There's a mobile station right down from Hartford Hospital, right across from Salvation Army. Those buildings have been empty for years.
Jefferson.
Yes. I'd be quick to say, look, let's buy that building. Let's do that building. Hey, I remember you. You know what you do. You know what you do if you just work from your strength and your expertise, and we work collaboratively. We can go with the phrase of happiness as a positive cash flow and provide services in some place for low or moderate income housing. Can turn it into a co-op if you want to allow them to have ownership. That's one of the dreams in the back of my head that I'm hoping that one day I'm able to get people to say, I want to hear more about it, and can we do that?
Do you think that sometimes people struggle following or accomplishing their goal because they actually don't understand what their actual goal is?
Yeah, my wife tells me that all the time. She says, you're all over the place. I say, but my name means a lot. And Ansarra, the Ansarra were the warriors that protected the Prophet Muhammad. And they were honorable people. And Michael means one who is of God. So I try to be honorable in that. You can fall very quickly into second guessing yourself in a trap. And life on a day-to-day basis is hard. Mm-hmm. There's no guarantee about nothing, not a thing. but sometimes if you let your conscience talk to you. And I learned this the hard way. I might not have been sure what I wanted to do or the person that I wanted to become when I was younger, just trying to find my way. I was on my own since I was 17 and still doing some things when I went to college and as a professional, just trying to grow. But then when you listen to, I'm 6'9", used to weigh 230 pounds, and so you should play basketball. And basketball career was ruined. I tore up my ankle. We had a coach that played under Bobby Knight, an Army coach under Bobby Knight in Indiana. He became the basketball coach at Cornell. He told me I was going to go home and sell drugs and make babies, and I was worthless. And my grade point average was nothing.
Do you allow that to destroy you, or it motivated you?
It motivated. Let me answer your first question. I'll come back and finish with that. And then you asked me a question about
if those words, like.
When the coach told me that I was gonna go home and sell babies and make drugs and sell drugs and make babies and I was worthless. Yeah. One, I didn't have any place to go, but there is a story with that. Is when I graduated, I remember going to his office. His name was Tom Miller. And I remember going to his office and I told him that I graduated. And I told him, I wish that when you told me those things, you just crushed me. I remember leaving his office when he said that and just running down campus, running down North Road by the fields and just running so that when I got to the dairy farm and I'm just running as fast as I could until I lost my breath. And I'm sitting on the side of the curb and I'm just crying. Because what am I going to do? I don't have anywhere to go. And you know what he told me? I didn't know how to get it, how to break into you. I didn't know how to make my point to you. I expected you to do this.
Tough love.
Man, forget that tough love. I'd have smacked you. But it sometimes it takes that. But that was a lesson that I'll never forget. And plus the other thing too, I'll never demean anybody or crush anybody like that. That's not necessary, because on the other side, it could have flipped the other way. So,
you never know where that person's mind is at
exactly.
At that time when you say those words.
Exactly.
When do you realize that you had the power of kind of engaging people and motivate them and kind of being that person for them? When do you realize, like, oh wow, I'm that person?
When I worked at the Upward Bound program at Lemoyne College in Syracuse during the summers when I was enrolled in college, and I'd go up there. That's Upward Bound, bringing kids to live on the college campus, so and so and so. And the gentleman that hired me, his name was Carson Carr. And we have the programs at the end of the year, the award banquets at the end of the year, and programming, and give out certificates and so and so. And I'll never forget, he let me MC. And then I got to come up with something to talk to the kids about. So I started going back to what Grandma would tell me. She said, you have no pride. Pride, she said, you pull your pants up, comb your hair, turn your hat around the right way, say please, say thank you, be respectful, be honorable. So I talked to kids about pride, but then it hit me. I started giving pride its own meaning. And this was my battle cry when I first got to Central. So any of those folks that initially would be at Central when I was recruiting from 80 to 95 know pride means personal responsibility in developing excellence. Nobody's coming to get you. Nobody sometimes will save you, but it's your responsibility, to be determined for excellence, to do the best you can, anytime you can, all the time. And that's when, I like talking like that in front of folks. And I went to a program, it was a program that they were doing for counselors of color out of the NACYAC or whatever is the organization, the National Admissions Directors, whatever. And they had a program for college directors and counselors. And we would go to Hampton University every summer, or they go to Chicago one summer. And they take the counselors and try to give them skills so they go back to recruit students and understand the politics of the campus and get the protocol down and understand the campus climate and the history, and when you're trying to make recommendations for change and all that. And there was a woman that we had a workshop, and it was a public speaking workshop, and she just gassed me up. She gassed me up. She just let me know that, you know, you have the gift to gab and the ability to flip your words. And I used to go to school, when I was in high school, going to McBurney, we had this guy and the teacher, Joe Pugela, English teacher, and he used to give us vocabulary words every day, every week. And you had 10 words, and you had a test, and you had to get 7 out of 10 right. And if you failed, you had to write each word 10 times. Wait a second, I'm in high school. I'm not doing that. Yeah, this dude was a Vietnam vet. And see, when the planes went overhead, his eyes started freaking out all over the place. You didn't mess with it, you just did what you did. We're reading Anna Dostoevsky and Anna Karenina and all kinds of crazy books. But I used to get on the subway, and I have a 45-minute to an hour ride, and I have to know my vocabulary words, but then I have a thesaurus, right? So you know the synonyms and antonyms, because in 74, 75, 76, 77, that was the advent of rap. And look, I can rap. And I was just looking for words. I just wanted to see what I could flip and how I could make things have a rhyme or reason. And then after a while, I said, oh, that's what that means. And that's how it all started. The bad part about it is, as I'm getting older, I wouldn't say I'm losing the skills. I just have not in a position to be out front in the public with those skills to refine them before I totally lose them. And definitely before I start to lose some of the stories, because my presentation is the power of the stories, because those experiences, they're shared by you in a different way, in a very different way.
Being able to have an impact on others, do you ever experience any challenges where working at any of these universities due to the relationship you had with the students?
How to answer this first? I want to give you a couple stories, a couple scenarios. First, I go with administration. I never played the political game very well. You know, somewhere along the way you have to stand with your principles and what makes sense. Folks say selling out or just doing something for your own, your own benefit. And sometimes, like from hustling, fast money, short money. So you do things like that. You don't always end up exactly where you thought you would be, and you gave yourself up. Some of the hardest experiences I've had at Central were those moments where I experienced racial bias, racism, discrimination, where I had a boss, just got to be the boss. I was asked to be on a search committee. I told the person for a vice president position, I asked my boss, because I'll take time out the office. He's new, follow protocol, chain of command. That's that military academy stuff. Try to be geared away. And I'm outside smoking a cigarette with one of my colleagues in front of the admin building. And he comes out and he says, people don't ask you to do things because of your professionalism. They don't ask you to do things because of your educational background. They ask you to do it because you're black. So you might as well get used to being the new house nigger on campus. Stop, time out. See, Johnny Floyd, who hired me, who had just retired, whose position he took, was the first black admissions director in the Northeast, in New England. I called Miss Norma. I was telling you a story earlier. I called Miss Norma. Miss Norma was Miss Norma Glasgow, who's the Commissioner of Education in the state of Connecticut. Or Dolores Graham and Donnie Perkins, who I used to work with the MEI, Minority Enrollment Incentive Program. Or Reggie Beeman, who was a councilman out of Waterbury. And I'm calling all different kind of power brokers now. And they called the president's office, and the next day President Shoemaker calls me and says, "Why didn't you come and tell me this? Because as your mentor," I go, "No, you're the employer. You're not my mentor. I'm not learning anything from you." Straight up. So we stopped that. Well, 24 hours after that man said that to me, he lost his job. He got pushed out into another position. Just before I retired, a couple of years before I retired, we had an athletic director, and I was always being passed over as the AD. For whatever reason they could contrive. I've never done any fundraising. No, but I'm a good fundraiser, and I know a lot of students. I'm creative in my thought process. I'm assertive. Try not to be overly aggressive to accomplish whatever the goal is at hand. And never got to be an AD, whatever. But I am an AD. I'm a dad. I'm a good dad. And but we had this AD, and he came into staff meeting, and he's talking to one of my coworkers about his email that he wrote. I'm not paying attention. I'm always on my phone. And somebody asked him, "What did the email say?" And he got up and he went into his office and he brought the email back. He gives it to the first person and they laugh. The second person looks at it. She says, "Oh, I know what it says." He gives it to the next person, they laugh. Gives it to the next person, they snicker. Gives it to the person sitting next to me, and she looks at it. And then she looks at me. And then she gave it to me. And I read it. And I tossed it across the table so it got some air under it. And I moved my chair away from the table so the director's sitting at the head of the table, so he has to move forward or backwards to see me. And what he meant to say was, "We're expecting a bigger crowd." It didn't say bigger. It didn't say digger. It didn't say singer. You passed that in front of me, you out of your daggone mind. You're lucky you caught me as an older man, because back in the day I'd have tried to get up and smack you. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just disrespectful. I called while I'm sitting there. I text the vice president and I go meet him. And he says, "You don't want to report this because you don't want to ruin his career." I said, "You guys already ruined my career. You ruined me from the stuff that you had me do, that you changed on me, what have you. But I'm going to take your money." You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to outlast all of y'all. Trust me. I ended up filing the grievance. I lost the grievance. The union asked me, "Come to the union meetings." I just go to union meetings to get out of the office. And then one day they're going around and they go, "Well, who you voting for?" "I got to vote?" I said, "Yeah, you're on the executive committee." I didn't know. I just showed up to the meetings. I said, "What you voting on?" I said, "We're voting on a succession plan where the president is going to retire. The vice president's going to move up, and we're looking to fill the vice president position." "All right, cool. Who's on the slate?" They said, "You, Michael." "Me? Who else?" "No, you, Michael." "Why you think we brought you here? Why you think you asked?" "Man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that." "All right, come on." So I go into the interim president of the union. And then we run an election. I get president, vice president of the union. I get to be vice president, newly elected, everything's good. And then it's weird how life is, because a couple months after we won the election, the president goes on sabbatical. So who's the interim president of the union? "Oh, you didn't want to talk to me before, huh?" "You will file a grievance. Go to step 2. We go to arbitration." Yo, that's like the old days when I was on campus. So sometimes you gotta shake them up, shake them up, put them on the heels, just to give them notice. And right will always ultimately win somewhere. So that's.
I think people were very grateful to have you on their side.
Some are, some forget, but that's human nature.
Some that can't stand you.
Yeah, well, that goes all part of it. I feel like this. I may be well known or used to be well known. I'm an old guy now, in the reserves, off in the wind. Love me, hate me. One thing you got to do is you just got to accept me for who I am, and I'm still learning who I can be. You know, I bring no malice to nobody. I bring no noise to nobody. However, if you want to flip the script, I can still go there. You know, I can still go there and or find folks. No, let me stop. Those just some moments. Some things just don't change. But you know, it's my reward. I hope will be the one day where I'm standing in front of the gates. See. And they're doing an accounting. And I hope I pass. And because they're going to call me, well, you did this and you did this and you did this. And I said, I know that was bad. So can we do 2 for 1? For every bad thing I did 2 good things. Can we go 3 for 1?
Balance the books.
Yeah, let's just try to balance that out a little bit. And that's what it's about for me right now. You know, it is always nice, just like now, coming here with you and with Flex, and to see him grow in Himmy Entertainment from a dream. Because I'll never forget, there was one day, this is years and years ago, Farad Muhammad. And Farad Muhammad says, look, me and the boys are starting to do this thing with Himmy. Why don't you come down with Himmy and so? I go, no, at this point, I'm doing my own thing with BU Designs, because we used to sell with this guy named E.J. Young. And it was a simple phrase, it's just simple stuff. Made a lot of money doing that stuff too. And all we type is BEYOU. Be you, huh? And it might have a slogan before you could be anything to anybody else. Be you. Exceeding expectations. Be you. Go down to New York City when they have the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Have a Puerto Rican flag on the front of the shirt. Be you. And have it translated in Spanish. Go down, make sure we get the vendor's license so we didn't have no problems. Whatever we had left, on the way coming back, we start driving through the barrio and stop off at the bodegas and say, primo bodies. So I remember Farad Muhammad telling me when this started. So when I came tonight, I walked in the door, all I was, look at you. Look at you. That's when the dream becomes a realization, and it's just a matter of how you continue to grow and develop the dream. How do you also spread out and have your hands in a lot of different things? Almost like I used to tell folks, say the idea that I had of trying to have people in the same room talking about ideas, working from their area of expertise, and said, look, we're getting ready to fight. This is a fight. We got to fight. So how often are you going to go fighting somebody and have an open hand? You wouldn't do that. But imagine the analogy is each person has their skill, their intellect, they commit, they do time on task, they report. Now let's go. Folks say, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, you're just hurting the group. We're losing power when we don't find ways to work with each other. Folks say, well, I don't have time. And I always tell my son just got his Side D in neuroclinical psychology. He got his intellect from his mom. Study the brain, like tattoo the brain, that kind of deal. And he tell me I don't have any time. I'm busy working on my dissertation, and I got to do my practicum and so. I go, look, let me help you make 25 hours out of 24. I said, how many hours you sleep? How much time you spend on personal hygiene? Commuting to work, from work, at work. Do you work out? You got to cook. You got to do different chores and tasks, what have you. I said, you're really busy. You got to do your homework. You got to do your studying. You're going to class. I get it. I go, you go to the bathroom today? Huh? What kind of question is that? I said, you had 10, 15 minutes of quiet solitude that you could have texted me, kid. You could have called me. I would have known what you were doing. Unless the water splashed and you started making noise and stuff, I wouldn't know. Come on. So the whole concept is if during the course of your day, with your expertise or your passion, if you took 5 and you multitask, if you took 5 minutes from here, let me just send this quick text. 10 minutes from here, I only got 10 minutes time phone call. 15 minutes from here, I got a moment to write down my thoughts or respond to this email or whatever it might be. Another 5 minutes of 10 minutes on the tail end. I just created another hour. So I just made 25 hours out of 24. So when folks say, I don't have any time, no, that's because you choose not to do whatever it is. So come up with an excuse.
You don't have time for motivation.
Yeah.
How did your peers and your family took your retirement?
Well, they're happy for me. Only from the standpoint where, my hours used to be crazy. I could work, working in athletics at the end, 14, 15 days straight, a couple 12-hour days. You're out in the rain and the cold. You go from the morning session in football to the evening session with swimming or volleyball. And I used to be, or was, the incredible shrinking man because I'd lose weight and just be a stick figure. And health-wise, it was good. It's issues, the things. Go to the doctor and the heart and this, that, or whatever, and they go, oh, well, the medication that you're supposed to take for your heart, you don't have to take that anymore. I said, I haven't been taking that for years anyway. He said, why? I said, because it was the pressure that I was under. So I have the benefit now of, I get up in the morning, I'm down at the Connecticut River at the crack of dawn, a couple of days out the week. I started walking, 4, 5, 6 mile walking. I'm not running anywhere, that's for sure. My grandson was born, and he's 4 now in preschool. So for 4 years during COVID baby, I was with him, teaching him. He went to Papa Smooth's Daycare Center. Now he's in preschool. He's reading and writing and counting. And he came home, and the teacher said, we didn't know that he read so well. I said, why? I said, because I had a shirt on that said, be kind. And then it said, why? And he was reading the shirt to her, and she couldn't figure out what it was until she looked down at the shirt. So they're happy. They're ecstatic. It's just, but they're also want for me to I had to find something to do. One of my businesses, try to create another business, I miss the public speaking. I miss that, what I'm saying? But everything's in time. Whatever. It's all good.
So how you been staying busy?
I make those reels, like I said. Watch too much politics, that's for sure. I wish sometimes I would have run for political office. But I have some kids that have done that, and I'm proud of them. Just trying to scope out and modify my business approach to my new endeavor. And I'll keep that one. That one I won't say on camera.
I got you.
That one. I'll talk to
That
you
one's
about.
brewing.
Oh, that was brewing. That's when I was talking to you outside. This thing has the ability to. It could do something incredible. Just like I look at it like this. It will be the crown on my head, the icing on the cake of anything that I've ever done in terms of thinking outside of the box, using my resources, making it cost effective with maximum profit with little effort after the initial setup that has some longevity. And that's where that is. Whether it was my time in housing at Eastern, changing their billing system, or Trinity College working on the security of their building of the student center, or admissions, recruiting students, creating programs, or athletics, being the 4th compliance officer in 3 years and making that program electronically running, connected to the university, and whether it's signing the Harmony Classic or signing for Central to play the University of Miami in football and make $1 million. Whatever. This is one of those things that this here is well thought out, just waiting, and I want to take some other people with me too. So that's what, just planting some seeds now.
You need to get that meeting with everybody.
Well, you never know. I don't know the extent that people of your outreach of this podcast. Mm-hmm. But if they want to get in touch with me, just get in touch with Himmy Entertainment. Get in touch with Flex and his wife. They'll find me. They'll find me.
If you could say something, any quote, anything motivational that you have been putting in your reels, and you can try to touch at least one person that's watching this interview, what will you tell them?
Believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You have to understand that just like the weather changes, things change. Nothing stays the same, like the song says. Everything must change. You got to be hungry for knowledge and thirsty for answers. Just like you eat a hamburger and drink a Coke, you got to feed your mind and feed your body the same way. when life around you seems so much in turmoil and so much pressure, to take the time to breathe and just understand how whatever you're going through at that moment could be worse. I had a guy that, this is maybe 3 weeks ago, he passed away. And it was tough for him because he was getting strokes, and he had a couple strokes, and then he was getting seizures. He had a seizure getting his teeth cleaned. My gosh. I'm talking to him on the phone, and I can't drive anymore, and I just bought a new car, and da 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 da. And I'm feeling, I said, I understand. I understand. Whoa, hold on a second, Brad. His name was Brad Flood. Hold on a second, Brad. They got any bombs dropping out the sky where you live right now? He says, no. I said, how about wildfires burning through the neighborhood? He goes, no. I said, how about water rushing down and the creeks overflowing? He goes, no. I go, bro, there's somebody halfway around the world and across the country that no matter how bad your stuff is right now, they would willfully and willingly take your place in a minute. I said, bro, just think how grateful you could be for the chance to wake up this morning. And, you're up in age. We're all up in age. And, anything can happen. So, they say YOLO, only live once. Well, I'm going to live twice, though. I know that. I believe in God. I believe I'm going to live twice. But in this godly earth, some things you got to accept it for what it is, change what you can, and keep pushing. Because things are going to come back around. Things are going to come back around. But the thing that, and what made that story kind of meaningful for me, and would be for the listener, is I talked to Brad, and we're exchanging a text on the Tuesday morning after I sent him one of the reels. And he said, I'll call you back after I come back from my walk. Well, he suffered from short-term memory. He can't forget all kinds of stuff. He talking, and then 2 seconds later, he'll say the same thing. I don't, okay, whatever, bro. Like, we just have a conversation all over again. He probably forgot. To be honest with you, I forgot. Wednesday morning, I send him a text. I saw that he posted stuff on Facebook. Thursday morning, I send him the text. I put my phone down, and I get a call from one of our former coworkers. It said, Brad died last night. What? What you got to complain about? Because I always just say, hey, bro, when you die, you won't know. But the hurt and the sorrow that you leave behind, the care and attention you leave behind, your legacy that you leave behind, hopefully is never forgotten. That's my message.
That was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Wow.
I tell you, that's that wisdom I pray for. That's not me. That's not me. That's not coming from me. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a messenger. Just a willful messenger.
And we're very thankful to have you here delivering the message.
Thank you, man. My pleasure. My pleasure. Maybe you bring me back and we find something else to talk about.
Yes. Maybe next time we can do a podcast station and have a couple of other people that are in very similar situations as yours.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Spread the knowledge.
Peace.